that so few people who mean well, who are good people, don't get it. You know, there's a terrible story that I told you 3 years ago, but it was very effective, so I'm going to tell it again. It's not a funny story, even though it is a funny part. When I was saying Kaddish for my father, 10 years ago, it's very hard to say Kaddish 3 times a day when you're a trial lawyer. Shachris is easy. You can get a minyan at 5 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning. Marib is easy. You can get a minyan at 7 o'clock or at 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Mincha in the winter. If you do what I do, that's hard. And if you want to say Kaddish for your father and Mincha is at 4 o'clock and you're in the middle of court at 4 o'clock, you have to find a minyan during the lunch break. So thank God to Rav Zoe Bell's organization, they are good that have a mincha map. And it tells you everywhere in New York where there is a minyan, in a hallway, in an office, in a shul, what time, how many times a week they have an island, how many they don't. So I had it with me. And I remember I was in court, and I got out of court at an unusual time for lunch. And I had a car waiting, and I found the minyan, and it was down in Wall Street, and I ran in, and as I came in, there were 15 men putting on gartels and putting on black hats in somebody's conference room, and somebody said, "Is there a chiyuv here?" And I said, "I'm a chiyuv." And he looked at somebody else and he said, "You daven." I don't care about this stuff. I'm not such a big tzaddik, and I don't need the covet. The only place you're going to find my name is on an Aron Kodesh dedicated in the name of my parents, because I want my grandchildren to understand the mitzvah of Kibbud Abba'im, and on a Sefer Torah that my father saved on Kristallnacht from Eretz Yisrael, because I want my grandchildren to know that that's how it began. So I don't need to daven for the Yom. It doesn't bother me. But I went up to him afterwards, and I went up to this man, and what was very funny is that the man he asked to daven was a former client. But that's the funny part. But I went up to the man who made this decision, and I said, "I want to give you my card." He said, "Why do I want your card?" I said, "Because Erev Yom Kippur, when you want to ask me for mechila, I want you to be able to find me." And he looked at me and he said, "Why am I going to ask you for mechila?" And I said, "That's worse than what you did 10 minutes ago. That you really don't even understand the pot you gave to another Jew, where you made a judgment that because I didn't wear a black hat and I didn't have a gartel, that I was not right to daven for the Amid when I was a chiyuv and nobody else was. What you did was bad, and what you did was what we have a problem with in our community. We make judgment calls. We make judgments of other people. There is a friend of mine who is a guy who asked me one day, he says, "Let me ask you a question, because I know you're an Orthodox guy." He says, "I'm a Catholic. There are 20 billion Catholics in the world. We got one Pope. You go to Borough Park, on 3 blocks, you got 70 rabbis." I said, "It's very complicated. It's very complicated." But you know what? I once heard Elie Wiesel talk about this at